In this series of digital recording with the VS 1880, we will go through the hookup, all the hookup you need for your VS 1880. So let's go through the components that we will be hooking up. We have our VS 1880, which is your controller of most things, or of all things. We have a old computer, Mac Quadra, a whole like 32 megahertz, but it's just my sequencer, so we'll be hooking that up through MIDI. You have the little stereo that we use for our output, and we also have a QSC amplifier. We have a DBX noise reduction and limiter, compressor limiter. We have a BBE sonic maximizer, which is the greatest thing since anything. It's really great. Really makes your sound quite a bit better, wider, fatter, and more enhanced. We have an Alesis sound module, which we will be hooking up through MIDI and through the audio inputs. We have our Privia keyboard controller and guitars, our little Marshall amp up there. We have this drum set, electronic drum set, and we have our drum machine and a Digitech Vocalist harmonizer, which I don't use much anymore. And we have our patch bay, Alta patch bay, really good. It has you can switch between half normal through and normal, which I will explain later, because the patch bay is a really great thing. Once I learned how to use it, it was very helpful. And that's really what we have to hook in all together. And so we're going to rewire the whole studio because things have become a mess. So we're getting there. We've unhooked a lot of stuff. My patch bay is all unhooked. Everything I did hook the drum machine in with a smaller set of cords so that I didn't have a big huge cord to reel up every time I want to hook the drum machine in, because these drums will also be hooked into this, and I'll show you that later. As you can see, I'm behind the equipment, and there's quite a mess to clean up first before I can start rewiring. Okay, now we're back here, and I've stripped out all the sound cords. There's power cords and everything. So now we're going to straighten out the power cords and try and get them all harnessed in, looking okay, and then we will go for the sound cords. Okay, now that we've got that cleaned up, I didn't really unplug everything and plug everything back in. I just tucked everything in to their little spots there. So if I was really going to redo the whole thing, I would unplug everything and put everything back in, but I'm not. So we're just going to do the audio rewiring right now, because that became too unruly and too many extra cords. So the first thing I did was I put my wireless headsets up here, and I connected one set of them to the headphone output right here on the recorder. For this other one, I'm going to leave it off right now because I have a decision to make on how to reroute the rest of these headphone jacks, because one headphone jack goes over here to this one and it goes back into the other room, which is a sound room. Now let's hook up the MIDI. MIDI goes into the computer. New computers will be a USB right here. This one's a serial port. That goes in to the computer. And then it has one input and 3 outputs. Let's switch to MIDI. Then we connect the keyboard here. This keyboard is the black one, the black wire, and it's connected into a 4 in and 1 out. So I could have 4 controllers. One thing with having 4 controllers is everything has to be turned on for anything to work. For this system I have. Newer systems might be different. Okay, and then the red cord is coming out from the MIDI out of the VS1880, so that's also a controller. So this will control the MIDI, and this will control the MIDI. So that's your inputs. Now my output from here, these outputs here, one will go into the MIDI in of this drum machine, and another one will go to the MIDI in of this sound module here, the Alesis sound module. And so when the computer plays the sequence that I've set for it, then it will go through this box into the drum machine, into the sound module. Thus, when I play this keyboard, it will also go through the computer and play the sound module. It doesn't play the drum machine. I'm sure I could set it to play the drum machine if I put it on MIDI track 10, but I'm not sure how to do that with this. I'm not sure if I want to, because I got plenty of drums. And one thing that we gotta make sure when we're hooking up the MIDI is your MIDI inputs right in there. You got to have at least one of your MIDI controllers in the first MIDI input, so input 1, in order for anything to work at all. So you have to have at least one input, and it's got to be in MIDI 1, and then all the other ones could be in whatever port. There's 3 more ports for it to go into. This is in MIDI 1, my controller, and this is in MIDI in 2. It's another controller.